Well, I'm out getting ready to do this video, and I thought I'd show a little bit of nature here. Here are a couple of geese. They look pretty tame, probably headed back to the North Countries now that the winter's just about over. Kind of an interesting thing to see. Sorry about wiggling the camera there a little bit, doing this freehand. They're only about, maybe 30 feet from me, if that, maybe 20. So I thought you'd like to see that. Nice way to start. And a couple of white ducks. Another nice couple. So that should be a nice start. Well, I hope you enjoyed the geese and the ducks. That's one of the things that makes life interesting, is to get out in nature and see what's there, feel it, get close to it. It has a special spirit and frequency all its own, and that's why we should do it. I apologize for being in my sunglasses, but I'm shooting this late in the afternoon, and the sun, as you can tell, is just off to my right a little bit, so it's a little hard to gaze into it. Before I get started on some of the things that are going on, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about, if for any reason I don't continue to make these videos or to keep in touch. And I don't have a lot of subscribers, I don't have a lot of people that look at this, but one of the reasons why I put those featured channels on my channel page, Sea Green 34, Infowars, of course, the Corvette Report, and a few others. The Swan Report is particularly good, the reality check, because he's fairly quick and gets to the point without so much talking like the rest of us do. And he's more mainstream, so you can verify a few things. Not to say you trust mainstream, but it helps to verify a few things when they do show up in the mainstream media. Certainly don't rely on mainstream media alone. And don't rely on alternative media alone either. Some of us aren't trained in the way that we need to be to get the information right. But as you'll notice in mainstream media, most of them just read from a teleprompter or read from a script that the government gives them. So there's really no investigative reporting. Ben Swan is one of the few exceptions to that. So, at any rate, if you find that I'm not giving out videos, I'll leave, of course, the YouTube channel up. There's a lot of information there that spans a couple of years. So it'll be there unless, of course, they take down the internet or take down my particular channel because maybe of what I've said. But at any rate, those featured channels that I've mentioned, I would like you to stay in touch with them. Those people do a great job. They are investigative reporters. They look into things. They'll give you the updates. And even though I'm not able to, or if I'm not able to give my rather insignificant analysis, at least you'll have access to those. So please do that. Am I saying I'm going anywhere? No. But you just never know with the way things are these days. So I just wanted to take that precaution. Okay, well, let's jump into some information here that I think is important. The first thing, of course, is DHS, and we've got to keep our eyes on the federal government. They're doing some things that are, maybe taking just one thing here or one thing there. It doesn't seem to mean much, but you add it all up, and it means a great deal. DHS just spent $4.5 million on a contract with Heckler & Koch, a weapons manufacturer. I didn't get a chance to look at the federal biz site to see what the actual request was, and I understand a lot of it was redacted or blacked out, which means that they don't want you to have the particulars of the information, which shouldn't surprise you either. But with that price tag, I would guess that it's not so much weapons as it is certainly a few. And Heckler & Koch makes some 9mm and some 223 5.56 NATO weapons that are very good, and very likely that's what those are. But I also suspect it's probably for some spare parts. But you need to be aware that they've spent some more money there. And then you take that onto account with the other things that are happening. 7,000 M16s were bought by DHS, saying that they need personal protection, personal defense weapons. And as I pointed out before, if we get the semi-automatic version of that, the M4 or the AR-15, they call them assault weapons. And again, these semantics mean things, folks. It's the way to get people to think a certain way, demonize those that you're going to go to war with. Now, what I want to show you here is a picture of what's called a Navistar, and they're ordering, DHS is ordering a little over 2,700, you heard me right, 2,700 of these armored vehicles. They're very similar to Bradley fighting vehicles or armored personnel carriers. And no, they're not just for peacekeeping. These are not just defensive weapons, they are offensive. And I just think that you need to know that. Now, a lot of police departments, of course, are getting armored vehicles, and there are times when you need them, sure, you know, hostage situations, whatever. But again, when you take these things as a whole, when you look at all of this information, the 2 billion rounds of ammunition, the Heckler and Koch we just told you about, the 7,000 M16s, now these 2,700 vehicles, armored vehicles, folks, this isn't for just law and order. This isn't for the bad guys. This is preparation for an assault on the American people. Backed up by a false flag, backed up by an economic collapse, I don't know. But it's something to keep aware of. All right. Now, the next thing I want to talk, sorry about the delay there. It's like I say, it's kind of bright. I had to look at my notes here. The DHS is also spending $50 million on new uniforms for the TSA. Okay, you know, uniforms have to be replaced on a regular basis, and they're probably making some changes. Or it could be to outfit new people. Now, they got this request in just before the sequestration limits that were placed on us on March 1st. And by the way, going back to that sequester, you know, 0.02% of the GDP is nothing. They haven't cut any spending, they've just cut the amount that would be appropriated for the next year. In other words, they've increased, they've decreased the size of the budget that they had. There is no spending cut, okay? Don't be fooled by that. That's all a joke. Government's too big anyway. We don't need what we've got. All right. Now, I wanted to make a point of a gentleman, and this has been in the news. I hope that you've seen it. Robert Gibbs, who was the former press secretary in the White House, was given an interview, and you can look this up on Google. You can see it in a video on one of the major mainstream media interviews. And he admitted that the White House told him to deny that there was a drone program, either foreign or domestic, just to totally deny it altogether. Remember, I told you, these people lie when the truth would serve them better. Now, President Obama and others in his administration, when questions about these drone programs, they basically say that the battlefield is everywhere and that their enemies are everywhere. And we're not just talking about Al-Qaeda, okay? When Senator Rand Paul asked to find out if these drones, armed drones, would be used against American citizens on American soil, the administration declined to comment. In other words, they are going to use these against us. This is serious because our tax dollars, you see the problem here? Our tax dollars are going to fund these things. And then they're going to be turned around and used on the very people that have built this defense complex supposedly for our defense. That's wrong. That's why you have posse comitatus, which they've now destroyed. So we're in some serious problems here, and these drones are particularly bad. Remember the no hesitation targets? Okay, well right now there are human pilots on most of these drones. Not all of them, but most of them. Still have a conscience there. What happens when they remove the human pilots? It's bad. We're in a bad situation here. Okay. Now, you know, our new Secretary of State, Kerry, is going to give $250 million to Egypt. Egypt is a failed state at this point. You know, we helped unseat Mubarak, you know, saying he was some kind of a dictator, gave the Muslim Brotherhood and the Arab Spring, which was all a joke. Now we've got the Muslim Brotherhood in there. Again, the same people that Al-Qaeda come from. And we're going to give them $250 million when we're having problems here in the U.S. Got to see what's going on here. And that brings up another issue. It was in the news here just the other day where the USS Harry Truman, which is a nuclear-powered submarine, is going to be docked in Norfolk. What they didn't tell you is that it's going to be docked there with 4 other nuclear-powered aircraft carriers right in a row. Sound familiar? Like maybe Pearl Harbor? Is there going to be an incident where they're taken out? I don't know about that. I'm not certain. With all the things on the drills that have been happening around ports and harbors, it wouldn't frankly surprise me. But that's not protocol. That's not SOP, standard operating procedure. That's not operations security. There's something wrong there. I'm just pointing it out. I don't know exactly what it means. Okay, war with Iran gets closer every day. You know they want this war. That's why they're in Syria. In military, there's a thing called an envelopment, you know, flanking maneuvers. Everything that you see going on in the Middle East and Southwest Asia has to do with an envelopment situation on a flank maneuver, on a strategic level rather than just a tactical battlefield combat level. They want this war with Iran because it'll take your mind off of all the other tricks they do. Again, what does a magician do? He keeps you busy looking over here while he does something over here to make the trick work. All right? And that's what's happening here. Are we really going to allow our government to slaughter another how many millions of people and endanger us in the process? Because you've got the Soviet Union, you've got China. What they're telling you is that they're not diplomats any longer. Okay? They're not diplomats. They're warmongers. Our leaders are warmongers. That's how they're going to get what they want. Has nothing to do with your security. Has nothing to do with the true national security of the U.S. It has to do with them obtaining power. Remember PNAC? All right? Project for a New American Century, authored by Wolfowitz, Cheney, and that group. They wanted to have something that would keep America on top. Not for the good, but so that they can do whatever they want anywhere. You need to read that because it really is eye-opening. All right. Now, interestingly enough, you know about probably the situation with the Chinese generals. I'm going to have to look at this because I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Major General Zhu Shenghu, I believe is his name, of the Chinese military. Now, some time ago, he said that, you know, if the U.S. continued in their aggressive behaviors, it would start a war, and he is prepared to nuke 100 American cities. And your government's protecting you by doing the things that they're doing? Let me remind you, okay? Remember that he's talking about the currency wars and all this. There was a subject that came up here a few days ago where the president of the Chinese banking system, marketing system, currency system, said that they were prepared to use any and all means to stop this currency war. Other mechanisms, all right? We had that situation that I showed you in a video not long ago with the submarine intercontinental ballistic missile that was fired from off of LA. This was in October, I believe, of 2010. And I showed you what that was. It's in one of the videos I have here, the seriousness or the tyranny of civilian disarmament. So that was a probe. That was to say, hey guys, you know, we can penetrate your defenses. And here this Chinese general now is at the Pentagon being wined and dined. Oh, is it for diplomacy? You know what? I would be very cautious about this. The military-industrial complex is out for itself, not about protecting you. And this is the guy that said he would nuke 100 American cities. Remember about the Chinese being in the ports now. They're running a lot of our ports on the West Coast. They run the Panama Canal. And they said to President Obama about this civilian armament that, you know, military or civilians are armed in the United States. That this was the Chinese state newspaper told Obama, you need to conduct a protracted war against the gun owners of the U.S. Protracted war. No. And that's going to be full spectrum. It's not going to just be, well, let's try to get them to negotiate. No. This is going to be an all-out war, and we're seeing it now. What's happening to the vets, what's happening to conservatives, Christians, right-wing people that they label extremists, but they're not. They basically just want to hold on to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. You know that whole story I've told you before. Protracted war, folks. This Chinese general is at the Pentagon. I think that signals something very bad, and it's not diplomacy to get the problems resolved between the U.S. and China. That's not it. Guaranteed. All right, and then finally, the economy. You know, we keep talking about, oh, it looks like things are coming back. Look at the stock market, you know. Soros and Buffett and those guys say, oh, Greenspan actually is who it was, said, you know, forget about the rest of the economy. It doesn't matter what happens, did. All you got to do is watch the stock market. Now, why did he say that? Because the stock market is really not the indicator of how the economy's doing. They're printing $85 billion a month to give to Wall Street to invest. They're going to flood that, balloon it up, and then it's going to take a tumble. Don't believe that the stock market is doing well. The stock market is not, at this point in time, an indication of the health and welfare of the U.S. economy. It is not. This is being propped up on stilts, and they're going to take the bottom out from underneath it, and it's going to go down. And the only guys you're going to make out are the guys at the top, as always. Oh, a few people might make some money, you know, they always do. But what is the overall damage going to be? Your government gave the too big to fail banks your money. And they're going to keep doing it until you and I have nothing left. All right. Well, thanks for putting up with me today. There were some other things I was going to bring up, but I don't want these to be too long. That one I did was 40 minutes long there. I apologize for that. That's a little bit much for anybody to say. What's that old statement? The mind can absorb only as much as the seat can endure, something like that. So I'll leave it at this. I just want to bring up one more time that if for any reason you do not see my videos coming up here on a regular basis, it's for a reason. And I want you to go to those featured channels that I have on my channel page to get your information. You know, the Drudge Report is good too, and that's not there, but that's because that's not just internet, or YouTube rather, it's internet compilation of news and information. So the Drudge Report's always there. I think eventually, when things start to go bad, all of this is going to come down. Internet access, they've already got the kill switch for that. If you've been following all these things with CISPA and the executive orders from President Obama, they don't want you to have information unless they give it to you. That's what, Germany did. You had the information minister, the propaganda minister, Goebbels, who was an expert at this. Folks, those Nazis were brought here after World War II. And we're seeing their procedures and their habits implemented here in the United States on a grand scale, and it's not going to end well. And that reminds me, talking about the economy, Kramer, the guy that's on, I think he's on Fox News or one of those, he's an investment analyst, counselor, whatever, on television. And even he said this thing with the stock market is not going to end well. We'll just make our money right now, you know. Yeah, we'll make our money now, but in the end, it's not going to work out well. What a bad attitude. Give me mine now and to hell with everybody else. No wonder we're going down the tubes. All right. Again, thank you for listening. And I'm going to say it one more time. If you see that I am not on here on a regular basis, go to those featured channels. They're good people, at least as long as the internet's up and you can use it. All right, guys, appreciate you, and I hope this gives you some information that you can use right away. Thanks a lot. Bye. Well, it's still March 5th, and I just did the video just a few minutes ago with the information on the 2,700 vehicles for DHS. And in that video, I also talked about the drone situation, that there was an argument over whether or not the president and the administration could use armed drones on U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. Well, just tonight, I just finished that video just a couple hours ago, getting ready to launch it on YouTube, when the news came out that now they are admitting that they will use drones on Americans on American soil. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a fascist dictatorship. This is the end of America. If you think that they are going to use these things to protect the citizens of the United States, you're wrong. Oh, they might use them against somebody like Dorner occasionally, but even there, doesn't due process take precedence over killing someone before you know whether they're actually a criminal or not? Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't get it now, if you don't see where we are and what's going on, and the fact that hardly anyone in Congress is stopping this, Senator Rand Paul is attempting it, but I don't know of any others. Our country is gone, ladies and gentlemen, and they are going to go to war against conservative, libertarians, gun owners, constitutionalists, limited government supporters, anybody who goes against the status quo, anybody who goes against the political humdrum in Washington, D.C., they will label a terrorist. I told you, this has been coming. That terrorism is now a definition, and they can increase the definition to anybody. You have no Fourth Amendment. You have no First Amendment. It is all gone now. As I said, if you don't see me on these videos, please go to those featured channels that I show you. Things are very serious now. They've just declared war on you with the NDAA. They're not just, and the Patriot Act and the Espionage Act that they've reinstituted, and now this thing with drones, the attack on the Second Amendment, all of these things. Do you see what's going on here? We're not far away from this thing exploding and lots of people losing their lives because of tyranny in the central government. Former Nazis have taken over. Communists have taken over. You know, the Breitbart finding out that Obama was involved with Bill Ayers and the Weathermen and his communist leanings, totalitarian leanings, kill off 50 million Americans. You've got to see this now. All right, you can tell I'm pretty upset, but I saw this coming, and this isn't the end. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.